2015's not quite over yet. So when we were thinking about the closing keynote, we realized it had to be somebody energetic, amazing, inspiring, and we were thinking about people, and this one person came to my mind. I had the privilege of briefly working with her a while ago, so I'm very excited to introduce Milissa Tarquini, who is our evening keynote. Just a little bit about her. In a past life, Milissa led the UX and design at AOL. She was there for 15 years. And then after leaving AOL, she went to work for Scripps Digital, which you probably all know Scripps. They Travel Channel, HGTV, Food Network, anything that you can get addicted to for like watching 7 hours in a row kind of a thing. She is their VP of UX and design there. She does their sites and mobile apps, and she's fantastic, and we're lucky to have her to wrap this thing up. So without further ado, Milissa.
Wow. Thank you. Wow, that was quite the intro. Hopefully I can live up to, I don't know, half of that. Look at you guys, you're beautiful. But I have some bad news for you. I wanted to end the conference on a high note, but it's time we cut the bullshit. You guys are UXers, and your careers are hard, and I don't know that you'll ever be happy. I'm one too, so it's my problem as well. We deal with a lot of problems all day, every day. That's all we look at. We look at problems. But we choose this particular line of work. In order for me to tell you about where the future, or I think, of UX is going, I want to tell you a little bit about how I got where I am. Way back. And we know that this was a long time ago because when Russ did his talk yesterday, there were years thrown out that people had not actually been born yet, and I don't even understand that. So let's talk about like 20 couple years ago. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I applied to one college because a guidance counselor told me that this college would let me design my own major. So I went to that, I just applied to that one college and got in, thankfully. My parents were thrilled. They would let me design my own major, so I picked these random things that I was interested in, and I had no idea that they would ever go together. It was just what I wanted to study. The classes looked interesting. And the classes were computer science, fine arts, and some psychology, because when you're 20, you really need to understand what other people think of you all the time. So you need to take psychology. So when I graduated, I was uniquely qualified for nothing. So I thought. My parents were very excited that I was going to work at Barnes & Noble, which, had I done that, I probably would have met Russ, because that's where he got his info on how to start a call center. That would have been so cool. Maybe I could have joined and like been cool. So 1995, I don't want to know who wasn't born then. I really don't. The beginning of time, or the beginning of history. I worked at this place, but honestly it looked more like this. And you've probably seen it. Or again, if you weren't born then. This is called a floppy disk, and you put it in computers. When archaeologists like dig and they get down to this century, they're going to find so many of those. It's going to be bad. I was there for a very long time, an obscene amount of time. I consider I grew up there, basically. I was there for 15 years. It was different every year. because we had 15 years of reorganizations. We call them the spring and fall cleaning. AOL was not very good at creating an organization or a business strategy and letting it see if it worked. The minute there was any hint of trouble or that someone somewhere might be unhappy with a particular organization or strategy, we changed it right away. So if there's one thing I'm really an expert on, it's organizations of design groups, because we've done them all. I've had a lot of managers, and whenever this new manager was plopped in front of me, they invariably had one question: what the hell is UI? Notice, I call it UI because it was the 90s, and that's what we did then. We called it UI. So this management executive, shiny new person that came in usually had never done anything digital. We were lucky if they had done something that you could call a product, but more often than not, that wasn't the case. So I had to create, well, what I did for survival basically was I created a little presentation that was called What is UI? And I printed it out and I kept it in my top desk drawer, printed so that when the next spring or fall cleaning came along, I could grab it and present it to somebody without having to get a computer, because when those cleanings came around, you probably didn't have time to log on and hear the You've Got Mail guy. No way. So for 15 years, I worked with What is UI in the drawer and an empty cardboard box under my desk. At the same time, this was going on in the industry. We were trying as an industry to explain our role to the world, what it is that we did. And we got into some ridiculous arguments over it too. We used pictures to describe what it was that we did. Do you guys know that on SlideShare right now, please do this. I'll send out the link on Twitter or something, but there is a presentation that's 277 pages long, and all it is visual representations of what UX does. That's all it is. It's fantastic. They have some from like the 30s. It's amazing. It's my favorite SlideShare ever. While we were explaining our role to the world, we were also arguing over our titles, which is one of the more annoying things I think that we as an industry have ever done, is the public arguing over what our titles are. Are we interaction designers? Are we UI designers? Are we user experience designers? Are researchers? Are we, usability researchers? Are we customer researchers? Are we blah, 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 blah? While I was at AOL, I was so excited that I had a job and that I could do the thing. I didn't care what anybody called it, and I still don't. So I still say UI. I try to say UX. Sometimes I say IXD. It's an acronym. The truth is, with all of those, all of our explanations, this is how we see ourselves. I can't take credit for this one at all. This is beautiful, and it was by Dave Gray, he's awesome and hysterical. But this is our truth. We feel like we are the most important part of a product's process, be it design or research. And just so you guys know, when I say UX design, I mean research as a part of that, because you can't have UX design without research, because you have to test your designs. Because if you're not testing your designs, I don't know what you're doing, but it's not UX. So, now that people know what UX is, right? We've moved along a little bit. We have complaints. A lot of complaints. Being a manager for 15 years of design groups and organizations, I have heard so many complaints, and it makes me wonder why we do what it is that we do. Developers don't listen to us. Product doesn't listen to us. testing comes in too late or not at all. You guys don't know anything about this one, right? Nobody ever dictates methodology or scripts, right? Ever in a usability test? Never ever seen that. So UX is hard. It is hard work. So why do we do it? I'm going to quote a study that was done pretty a lot during this little talk because it's a fantastic study. It was done by the Nielsen-Norman Group, and it's on user experience careers. And if you have not downloaded this, please go. I've got the link in the presentation. It is a fascinating look at ourselves. You will laugh, you will cry. But when we complain about our jobs, generally speaking though, we're supposedly happy. I don't believe that, but that's what the respondents said, so I'm not going to argue. But this one piece of insight came out about the people that were honest and expressed their dissatisfaction. They mentioned that they were unhappy because they didn't get to do enough UX. That's crazy. UX is hard. Developers don't listen to you. Product doesn't listen to you. The client doesn't know what they're talking about. We are the only ones that can save the world. Did you see the chart? And then there was this one. Everything I needed to know I learned by playing Dungeons and Dragons. That is the scariest thing I have ever heard of. And I just wanted to put it out there so that we can talk about it later at the cocktail reception, because that's just scary. With these problems that we all have, the design and UX leadership, I don't know who that is, but I have a team, so I've tried to help them as I wanted to be helped while I was coming up. We've tried to solve some of the problems through organizational design. If developers aren't listening to you and you're not getting your test plans in time, or maybe no one even called research ever. I'm looking at Sharu in the back who's worked with me on testing. I'm sorry, I apologize. Please don't hit me. There are organizational structures that can help to alleviate some of this. Not all of it, because a lot of the problems boil down to working with other people, and people can be wonderful and people can be jerks, and there's no organizational structure in the world that's going to make them better or hopefully not worse. Russ mentioned this yesterday. His team is set up exactly the way my team is. The product design, the product team at Scripps, design, product, and engineering are peers. You will notice that research is not on this slide, and please, again, don't hit me yet. The reason that they're not on this slide is because I believe design, product, and engineering are customers of research. In some organizations that I've seen, when the consumer insights, let's call you guys that, user experience, testing, whatever we're going to call you, when they're too close to design, product, and engineering, some dysfunctional organizations that you may or may not be a part of tend to attack the research as biased. Product's just spinning that. Oh, of course their testing came back that it was fine. Testing lives in the design department. They're never going to be honest and say that they're, it completely failed usability. Design pays their paychecks. So that's a little side rant, sorry. So meanwhile, we're getting design, product, and engineering, or peers, design and user experience are becoming elevated in organizations. And at the same time, the rest of the world is changing. Business is changing in a dramatic fashion. I think, hopefully, you guys have all seen this chart. Design Management Institute. This shows how design-centric organizations are outperforming, basically, the market. And again, design-centric does not mean no research. Design-centric means all research, basically. You'll recognize some companies on there, but look at that, 228% better. That's you guys. You did that. Thanks. Right. Woo. Finally. You know, I kind of wanted the cocktail hour to start earlier so that, okay. So design has become the darling of business right now. You see it all the time in traditional business magazines, right? They're all about design now. Who knew? We're so fancy. And UX is the darling of design, right? Because we're not talking about just visual design or just any other design. We're talking about the design of an experience or a product or a process or something. But it's this whole experience design. I love this chart. This chart shows, which is a really strange way of starting the sentence, actually. I apologize for that. Check this out. This shows the growth in the number of job postings for user experience designer, UX, over the past 9 years, looks like. And you'll notice something crazy happens in the middle of 2007. Things go nuts. Does anyone remember anything that happened in the middle of 2007? Correlation is not causation, people. The iPhone was launched in the middle of 2007, or at least announced, right? What I think is more interesting is it really starts to climb in 08 and 09. And that's when the App Store was launched, because that's when shit got real, excuse me. Because the phone was a wonderful thing and everybody wanted one in their pocket, but brands couldn't be there. Brands couldn't be in your pocket on your phone. The only one that could be there was Apple. When the App Store launched, every brand in the world went, holy shit. Suddenly everybody wanted UX designers and research, and it was awesome. Whoop. No, that was right. So UX cannot exist without research. I mentioned that before. Here's the same chart about, but for research positions in user experience. What happened in 2010? There was some crazy party and then a massive hangover, and I don't know what that's about. But if someone can talk to me, again, there's things, you know.
That was our conference.
Damn. That was quite a party. Again, I need to hear details from that conference, you know, later on this evening.
What happens at UXPA?
Stays at UXPA. Thank you. Thank you. We can all agree on that. But you will, despite the craziness of 2010, you'll notice that that is a beautiful growth trend. So while businesses are courting user experience and user experience design, and we're on the cover of Business Week and everything else, the world is changing. And throughout history, companies have traditionally been run by a certain kind of person, a person that has certain kinds of traits. There are traits that make excellent leaders, and the kind of traits that have led to success in, say, the CEO role were things that you could draw parallels between, like the military, right? CEOs were commanding and authoritative, and there was a lot of top-down talk, and basically, I don't know how to describe them except for like very military-like. But the business world changed too fast for that. You needed to collaborate. You needed to act quickly. You needed to turn your entire company on its head overnight if you're going to succeed, because unfortunately, there's a startup coming for you. I'm sorry. And they're going to show up next week. They're going to have a product that just takes all of your customers away, And you can't rely on your giant stockpile of cash. You can't rely on your history. You can't rely on any of that. So the traditional model of a successful, C-level executive of being very rigid in process, say, and not very adaptable. I'm generalizing. It really isn't working anymore. And this shows a little bit about those traits that were traditionally associated with a chief executive, right? Plans, execution, commands, like hates failure. What we see on the other side, and this is from a book called The Rise of the DEO. It's great. I highly recommend it. DEO, it's ridiculous. Design Executive Officer, I don't know what that is. Because, again, it implies that design is a silo, and later, we'll get into that later. But you'll see that the traits that are going to make the next round of leaders successful are traits that are typically associated with more creative thinkers, not necessarily a designer. And I'm not saying that traditional CEOs can't be creative. What I'm saying is some of the traits are different, right? Designers and folks that think in a nonlinear way tend to think in a nonlinear way. They're comfortable with chaos. They invite it. They are okay with failure, sometimes. They understand the value of making connections, where those connections and those networks lead to not only like getting to know people that can help you, but being able to make connections between things that you had never connected before. And because business is changing in ways that just never connected like that before, that's going to hopefully help lead companies in the future. Earlier this year at a different conference that obviously is not as good as this one, Leah Bewley presented her view of the modern UX organization. Really great, interesting research from Forrester. She states, how there are outdated modes of basically operating a business, and there's a lot of companies that are sort of in that middle spot of progressing. But the really true modern organizations have, and you'll notice one of the things at the bottom, executive leadership plus centralized strategy and governance. That is something that's pretty critical, I think. And then, just recently, this happened. Do you guys know who that is? That is Johnny Ive. And he's flanked by other fancy designers, but Johnny Ive was promoted this year, just a couple months ago, if that. He's now the Chief Design Officer, which is yet another three-letter title. And if there's one thing we know about Apple, everybody copies Apple or wants to be like Apple. So, mic drop, right? Johnny Ive just got promoted to Chief Design Officer. We're done. We did it. Cheers. You can be happy now, right? Seriously, all companies copy Apple. They've got a Chief Design Officer. Let's sit outside in the lobby and wait for our offers. They're coming. Problem is, I don't think we can be happy. I know we can't be happy. We can't be happy. Did I make it big enough? Do you guys get it? Like, no. No. I was thinking about why no. Why? Why can't we be happy? Why? I'd like to blame Russ Wilson if he's here. Oh, let's send him this video. Because yesterday in his talk, he said a couple things about what makes user experience teams successful. We are firmly blaming him. He's not here, guys. It is his fault. Empathy, tenacity, and some other stuff. I may be paraphrasing. In order to be empathic, we have to feel the problems. It's not that we recognize the problems, we feel them. We carry them with us. That's horrible. Tenacity means that we can't put them down until we've solved them or at least made them better. Think about that. And you guys know it's true. You see the problems everywhere. And to create the solutions, we have to focus on them. All the time we are thinking about what is wrong. And if we're not thinking about what is wrong with our careers, we're thinking about what is wrong with the doorknob and the light switch and everything else. And it's everywhere. Look, you can't even go to buy beer and make yourself feel better because that happens. I really want to start a Tumblr of these things. I have like a half a dozen pictures of just random card readers that have all of these things taped all over them. It's wonderful. So you're not getting away from the problems. They're everywhere. And as you advance in your career, you're just going to focus on bigger problems. I remember when I was an associate UI designer, my biggest problems were like where the OK and the cancel button went. But don't get me wrong, I mean, we had big fights over that. Like, is it OK space cancel help? Or is it cancel help, bigger space, OK? And if anyone remembers the wars over Mac and PC, that was basically it. But the problems get bigger and bigger. Suddenly you're not worried about, the experience of one product. You're worried about the experience of 85 and how they talk to one another. And then you realize, take me for example, I have these different web properties and mobile applications that not only need to talk to one another, but we have to focus on the fact that users don't come to sites anymore. You have to push your content out to wherever they are, be it Facebook or wherever. The tools to do that, you can't just snap your fingers. So if you look behind the curtain of some of these sites, it is just god-awful. But that's not even the bigger problems that we need to even think about because they're bigger all the time. And we have no choice but to deal with them because we are tenacious and we have empathy. We have no choice, but we have a chance. Your gift/curse can help because you can do more than you realize. You already do more than you realize. You do much more user experience than you think you do, for better or worse. I've done a lot of sketchy things that I didn't necessarily call UX at the time. Our problems are getting bigger, but we're bigger than everything. Look, it says so right there. If we can focus some of our problem solving, geniusness, curse, tenacity, empathy, on some of the bigger problems, wow. And I know how grandiose that sounds, right? Oh, we're going to save everyone. Oh, my God. And we're going to have a style guide about how to do it. It's going to be great. Oh, my God. The problems that are going to face us are going to be monumental, right? we have to figure out problems about how to get water to people. We have, and you know, nowhere do you feel that more acutely than in California, right? It's illegal to give water at a restaurant table unless you ask for it. So a New Yorker, I'm like, what? We need to get medicine to people, right? All of these problems we can solve with some creativity and some user experience, design thinking, research. We can do this. And again, we don't have a choice because we're going to carry these problems with us whether we like it or not. As soon as we discover them, they're ours. They're a part, like, I just imagine UX folks with like a little, I don't know, bag of sadness next to their heart where they carry all these problems. But the beauty of what we do is, and the beauty and the duty, I said duty. I am a very mature person, by the way. Our responsibility is to make people's lives better, right? And you all have the skills to do that. Because in that same study from Nielsen Norman, folks got to say things like this: I get to make people's lives better. Who else gets to say that stuff? Race car drivers don't get to say that, and I really wanted to be a race car driver for a long time. My work means something. Again, who gets to say that? You guys do. I know my work helps people. And it's the best thing I ever did. We have a huge responsibility. And again, I don't think that you can be happy. And I'm sorry about that. But I couldn't be more proud of where we've come in the past even 20 years, right? Business has paid attention. We're making real impacts there. Now we need to do a little bit more. Okay? Can we please go have a drink now?